but
Yeah, sweet.
it's ours. All right.
Yeah.
We're down here.
So
Before. Can you look into the camera and clap for me? Perfect.
okay.
Action.
Wonderful. All right.
Yeah.
Okay.
So,
who thought we'd be here?
That's right.
I've been doing this for I've been editing so many episodes that every time I know that right after the clap, Steve's gonna say that. Every time.
It's been that way for 50 episodes, and it's probably not going to change.
Not going to change.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
good. Consistency. You know?
Yeah, man.
So that's one thing we'll talk about today, but we're just, for everybody watching and listening, we're joined today by Brandon Purdy,
What up?
musical artist, producer from Walkill.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Good to have you.
Yeah, good to be here, guys. It's
Yes, man.
awesome.
Yeah, thank you for taking the time to do
Yeah.
this. We appreciate you.
It's an interesting dynamic because I feel like the only conversations we've ever had before in person were like when one of us was either working at the bar and the rest were patrons, or vice versa, you know?
Yeah.
And it was very interesting to, like, we were basically rolling right into, like, talking about creative stuff and emotions, like, as soon as you got here.
Yeah.
And that's awesome. Like, that's, like, and we love the fact that, like, on your questionnaire, you wrote, like, 5 out of 5, I want to have a vulnerable conversation.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
And I think that's awesome.
Yeah. That questionnaire, it took me a little bit just because I really wanted to, answer it thoroughly, but I like the questions that you guys had.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We appreciate it when people, like, take the time to...
Yeah.
Because then I think that leads into us having, like, a better idea of, like, what you want to talk about, and, like, we have a direction of...
Where to go with this.
Yeah.
And that
How
always
we're gonna
helps. One of the things we talked about right from the beginning was, like, becoming better at interviewing people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's good.
So that's something that we've wanted to do.
And the questionnaire helps.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, so just like we were saying, we've known each other for a while, but like never in this capacity. And I think one of the things that caught my eye right away from, I saw you on TikTok. I reached out to JP and I was just like, have you seen what Purdy's doing? Like, I followed you on, we share the TikTok account for who thought we'd be here. So I was like, go look at his content and stuff. And this, what's the name of the song? Stormy Skies?
Oh, keep going.
Keep going.
Yeah,
okay,
keep
yeah.
going.
So that theme, like, immediately, I was just like, okay, I like this vibe. Like, this is what he's doing. Because I do remember when you were the BP, like, when you were putting out music as that. And I had never really followed. But then when I saw you, and then I, like, clicked on your TikTok, and I was like, this guy's the fucking model of consistency. This is what I'm talking about. This is, like, what we preach on the podcast.
Yeah.
So it was very interesting to see that. But knowing you from before, and because you had been under a different artist name, it was kind of like, this must be a rebrand. So
for sure.
I think a question to start off with is like, how'd you get here? Like, what was the switch? You can go from a little bit of getting into music and why it's important to you, and then like, what was the moment that you were like, let's change this up?
So I got into it. I was, had a lot of things going on. I had lost somebody, and maybe we can get into that a little later. But then I was just lost after that, just going through it. And it's like you're just sitting there, and there's just a blinding light on you. Like, you're just sitting there, like, naked. Like, everything that you thought is just gone now, And it's like getting a little worked up about it, but anyway,
that's what we're here for, man.
Yeah.
Please be as vulnerable as possible. We appreciate it.
Yeah, losing somebody, and the person that I lost her dad, and she would always, say shit to me that just didn't click until later on. You know what I mean? She's just like, "Oh, you don't know." It's like, "What do you mean I don't know?" It's like, you definitely don't know. But once you're there, it was like months of just depression. And then finally I was reaching out to my one friend that did music that I knew. And he's, really inspiring because he was like the first artist that I saw around here that I really liked their music. And I was like, oh, this is awesome. And that was like 3 years prior to me doing music. So I reached out to him. I was like, let's get this music thing popping. Like, I was just going to be like a manager and help him out. I just wanted to be in the music industry. And then I just wrote something one day, started singing it, and I was like, that didn't sound bad. So I actually went to his friend's house, recorded the first time ever. It was terrible, but I just kept doing it, and here we are now.
Yeah.
But I was doing more rap and R&B, and I wasn't saying anything in my songs that I really wanted to say. Like, it was all just hollow. Like, there was nothing to be said. Like, just going out drinking.
That's a good word.
Girls.
That's a good word. Hollow.
Yeah.
I like that.
And so I just had this moment where I was just like, I need to start saying something in my songs, and that's where, you know, the spirituality comes into it and really looking into yourself. And the song Up that I did, I finally said something in it. Like, it was something that really resonated with me, and it took me another, you know, 6 months to actually have the rebrand, but I'm glad I did it, because now I'm finally, you know, myself, and expressing myself through my music and spreading my message through the music. Keep going. Like, I remember after I recorded it, I was at work and I was an outside salesman, so I would be able to leave whenever I wanted. Never really did sales calls, but I remember I left and I was having a tough day at work because I didn't want to be there, and I was listening to Keep Going, and I would literally sat my car, like laid down in my car, and I was like, finally something that I can like push with all my heart and not really like have no doubts about it, you know what I mean? So, and that's just, this is the first song, you know, so it's just all up from here, and I'm just excited to keep creating, because you got to create your life, you know?
Yeah.
You guys know it.
Absolutely. Yeah. What do you think sparked you to be more authentic in your music?
Yeah, it was really just listening back to my songs, and like I would put them on. Or actually, I had another traumatic moment. I lost my aunt, and she has a 7-year-old daughter, right? So, but she would listen to my songs all the time, and my songs were not clean. So that was definitely a like moment, like, oh, she loves my music, but she doesn't even know half the stuff I'm saying, and it's not great. You know what I mean? Like, granted, sex and like creativity is like usually go like hand in hand, at least in the arts and stuff like that. Like, you know, painting, movies, everything, you know? But just seeing her like love the songs and it not really be something that she should be listening to made me want to make songs, you know, that she can listen to, everybody can listen to, and it'll resonate with them, you know? So that moment when we went to go pick her up in Virginia to bring her back, I wrote a song, Steal the Show, and no curse words in it. And that was the first, I think the second song I did no curse words, but like no curse words. And I was really proud about that. And it's, granted, it's like a, you know, the freak's gonna steal the show, like people having a good time, but like it was a better message in my songs, you know? So that's what really made me want to be the biggest star in the world, you know? And the only way you can do that is if everybody can listen to your stuff. You can't just be talking nonsense, and you know what I mean? Like, I really want to spread my message through my music. It's not like something I just do just to try and get clout, you know what I mean? Like, really want to, you know, help people.
Yeah, something that means something to you.
Exactly.
To be of service.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's the biggest thing. We talk about that a lot.
Yeah.
Do you want to... Oh, sorry.
No, go ahead.
Do you want to just go back a little bit and like what got like your start in music?
Yeah. My dad.
About your dad.
Yeah. My dad. I grew up and he was a DJ and he was awesome. Everybody loved him. He was more of like, you know, like a wedding, and you know, he actually was the DJ at my prom. So I always loved music. Like, I was primarily a dancer. Like, I would always just love to dance. And as you get older, you kind of lose that, and I'm trying to get it back now. Yeah, but you know,
we
like,
see it on TikTok.
Yeah.
We always talk about like that reconnecting with that, like you lose it as you get older.
Literally
reconnecting with like that energy, that like that pure joy that came from, for me and you, it was like sports, like anything like that like you're just like, oh, I'm supposed to grow out of this, and then when you're an adult and you look around and you're like,
fuck. I was never supposed to grow out of it.
Yeah,
you know
exactly.
I mean?
Like, it was just supposed to evolve. Yeah,
exactly. But that's how, like, I would always love to dance. My aunt always tells a story when I was like 3 years old. Like, I was always quiet, but she put a song on, and it's Next Too Close. I don't know if you know that song.
Oh yeah.
Not a great song for a 3-year-old to be listening to, but I was jamming in the back. She always tells that story whenever we get together now. Yeah. But there was just always a love for music, and I never saw myself as an artist, but through just keeping at it, like finally here we are.
Yeah,
you know. So it's always been there, and it's funny. I actually wrote down on a piece of paper. I wish I dated it, but it was before I ever did music, and I put on there. It was just like I was writing like goals down, and one was write a hit song. And I like found that piece of paper like later on. I was like, so I knew this all along. Like I knew I was gonna be here, you know. But it's just finding your way, you know. So that's kind of how I got started in music. It's just always been a love for it. And,
yeah, it's crazy when you when you see yourself manifest something without realizing that you did it. Like, this is completely different. But like when I was younger, my brother used to always be like, when I got into bartending, he's like, you should go bartend in the city, like at a gay bar. You'd make so much money. Never thought anything of it, and then like left the Roosevelt, and that was like the most successful gay bar in the area. I ran it.
So like, Roosevelt is?
Yeah. Like those things just come full circle.
That's awesome. Yeah.
Exactly. You don't really know it, but the seed is planted.
Yeah. For real.
They're the best. They're the best tippers. You'll never make as much money as you will at a gay bar.
I've definitely been told that too. That I should be working at a gay bar.
Yeah.
They're like, you guys know Jesus bartending?
Exactly.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, it seems like it's really cool, like, because we didn't know each other well, but it's really cool to see someone like tap into their authentic self.
Yeah, for sure.
And like I was watching the TikToks, and you hear the music, and people can say it all they want, but it's just like I like to think that you can feel when somebody's being authentic, and it comes from a place like that.
Exactly.
And that's why sometimes, like, for me, it's videos, it could be anything that, like, you could think something means nothing, and then something just finds somebody at the right place in their life.
Yeah.
Do you have any stories about, like, people who have, like, connected with your music or reached out about...
reaching out...
Or friends, anything.
Yeah, for, you know, when random people will hit me up and be like, I love what you're doing, like, it's definitely, like, a great feeling, you know. They kind of see what I'm doing and inspire them to, you know, do something for themselves. Recently, like my most recent song, someone left like a pretty long comment like, oh yeah, my boyfriend does music too, like it's so nice to see like independent artists making great music like this, like, and it was really like heartwarming, like to see that, like oh, I am, like, not everyone's gonna, you know, be honest and be like, oh yeah, you helped me, you know what I mean? Like, it's not in their nature really, but you don't know how many people you do help, like that never say anything, and it's like you just got to keep going. You gotta keep doing it. And
shameless plug. Hell yeah, dude.
You know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
you're gonna help a lot. Like, you guys definitely have, I'm sure, have you guys got people like hit you up like, oh, I love you?
Yeah, well, we've gotten like people who say, like, tell us kind of like in person, because like I said, it's one of those things where, and I'm sure you get this too, which is that like, oh, like what we were known for was like being the best bartender or doing drugs or getting hammered or whatever it was. And for like people to be like, oh wow, like I never thought we'd see you guys doing that. And that's why the name of this podcast kind of resonated so much. And we're trying to branch out more into the of like trying to help people, like putting that energy out there, and that, like you said, like being okay with the fact that you're probably helping people. You just don't, like, just because you're not getting the comment back or the message or whatever it is, like somebody might have listened to your thing, and as long as you're putting the right intent and energy into it, I feel like you can feel it come back, even if it's not in like a physical manifest or digital manifestation. Whatever.
Yeah, really well said.
Yeah. To piggyback off of what he said, what were some of the things that you look to for inspiration? Like, what is there anybody that's like really resonated with you? Like I was talking about, like Mike, like he's been huge for me, and then I've picked up things like along the way. Like now I love to read, so like Wayne Dyer is a big one. So like anything from Wayne Dyer, I always can find inspiration, and like kind of centers me and gives me a little bit of motivation. What do you have that does that for you?
Just really listening to the greats. That's what I've been doing, like, since I kind of had that realization that I'm not really saying anything. It's like, started listening to everybody I'm chasing, like Michael Jackson, Prince, Rick James, like all these guys that were before me, and really looking at them as the artists that they are. And really, I need to be that artist every single day, like no matter where I'm at. And just listening to the old music and doing new things, like me picking up the guitar, like that has really helped me with like my creative block that I've been in, because my producer doesn't live near me, so we can't work as much as I would like, and I can't necessarily produce my own song from scratch, 100% and like have it sound great, you know what I mean? Because like I'm at the point where I can't put something out that sounds amateur. Like I'm at the point where like it needs to sound good, like it needs to compete with the people on the radio. Like I'm not trying to just be in the bedroom making songs and like just putting them out and like it don't matter what it sounds like. Like I really want to sound comparable. So yeah, I don't know where I was going with it, but yeah, just listening to the greats and doing new things, like being creative, like creating your life,
Do you think you have, because you want to ask him a question?
Yeah, I think So one of the things that I struggle with heavily in my work is like comparing myself to the greats. Tarantino, Christopher Nolan, Martin Scorsese, the whole deal.
Yeah.
And they sit there with like your little real estate video where you're, whatever it is, bartending, whatever video. And you're like, why doesn't it look better? How do you kind of ride the line between finding inspiration in something and then being like, I'm not there yet, but maybe one day I will be?
That's a great question. That is definitely a tough...
Because I struggle so much with like the perfectionism, and then you're just like, you realize that, like you said, I mean, these huge artists have these massive teams behind them, and they've got all these producers and making everything sound perfect and blah, blah, blah. And like I said, like for the stuff that I want to make, I need a crew of 30 people for it to look like that.
Yeah.
And then you're sitting there in the edit bay and you're like, why doesn't it, and I every day I kind of have this wrestling with that perfectionism and comparison. And but every day I try to be grateful for that, like there's greats that came before me that I'm inspired by, and then not lose the fact of like, it's like my stuff isn't gonna look like fucking Roger Deakins. Like,
That's I still struggle with it now, you know what I mean? I would say, like I said, I still struggle with it now, but I just know if I can make somebody feel something through the music, then even in my song now, like I don't like how the beginning is. My dad has said like, oh, it doesn't sound good in the beginning. So like I feel like it's always going to be there. And I actually saw a clip of Billy Joel talking about it, and he said something along the lines of like, oh, at least I know I'll never write a song like so and so. And it's like, okay, so even the greats, deal with that shit too,
Yeah.
And it's always going to be there. I'm always going to be like, oh, I can't sing like Michael. You know what I mean? But it's like, you can. It's just not Michael, You sing like Brandon Purdy, It's just realizing that comparison just drives you mad. And it's like, once you just keep iterating something, the thoughts get a little quieter. You realize that you're not the thoughts, and hopefully one day they'll, be gone.
I always find that like tapping into that and like seeing people who are super successful still struggle with that always helps me. I saw a clip of Robert Eggers. He's the guy who directed the new Nosferatu movie.
Oh, okay.
And I loved it. Fantastic movie. He's a great director. He's got a bunch of good movies. Yeah. And it was
shameless plug.
Shameless plug. And love that movie.
Yeah.
The Oscar, snubbed at the Oscars. And it was a clip of him talking about, he's made a bunch of great movies before that one. And he was talking about how this is the first movie where he wasn't like, he didn't want to kill himself in the edit room for it. And I was like, this dude has made so many great movies. And just got to like his fifth or sixth one that didn't make him want to like rip his hair out
Yeah,
in the
yeah.
edit room. And I'm like, if that's how he feels right now, I should be okay with the fact that my camera's a little unsteady.
yeah. That's good though.
Yeah, exactly. I think that's it's important to. I don't know. The comparison is huge for me. Like you said, it's just your music will never sound like Michael Jackson because you are not Michael Jackson.
Exactly.
And you're, and you have to kind of make peace with that before you can say that, like, yeah, but my stuff is important too.
Exactly.
And it's riding that line of inspiration versus no, it's never going to be exactly like that because that's not you.
Mm-hmm.
And then it wouldn't be authentic if you were just replicating somebody.
Exactly. Yeah. It was like what I was talking about earlier, like you just copy what you know when you first start, and that's exactly what I did. Like I literally just copied all the songs that I knew, and then you develop your taste, and you can't compare yourself to other people.
Yeah,
there's not you,
And you also, I think sometimes you realize that when you look at how much. I guess hate isn't the right word, but like all the haters online, like who are. These movies or music that, we would all consider like pretty much standard across the board, like everybody thinks is great, that like those people still have thousands of people writing comments or talking shit about how they didn't like it or I didn't think it was this or I didn't think it was that. Just like it's not, it's kind of just part of what you do. It's kind of just like part of it. There's probably somebody out there who was watching our podcast. Like we got a hater comment the other day.
Oh yeah.
That somebody said there was so much BS in what our friend who was a guest on the podcast said, and it was just kind of like,
all right, dude.
All right. Well,
thanks for watching.
It was talking about positivity. It was talking about putting positive energy out, and it comes back to you. And just like, I don't know, man. Like, I have like zero answers about anything, but I do know that like. I feel like the more I put positivity out there, I think it it might not make its way back in a way that is convenient for you, but I think it always comes back. Maybe not in the way you expect.
Yeah. I like how you said that.
Yeah. So mental health wise, you've had some things go on in your life, and you were talking about kind of navigating them and how it's helped you find music. What are some of the things that you do like now at this point in your life, like that are part of your process that kind of like keep you centered?
Journaling, definitely big. Just recently started, like I would only write, granted I have a smaller black book, but I would only write 1 page, right? And it would help me get my thoughts out and shit like that. But I just started recently, like, not stopping myself and just, writing. There's a book I want to pick up called The Artist's Way, and somebody like mentioned that when you wake up, you write 3 pages, and it's like you just let it fly, like let the energy go through you and just let it go.
That Stephen Pressfield talks about that book. So does Rich Roll.
Yeah.
Have you ever read The War of Art by Stephen Pressfield?
No.
That's a good one.
That's a good book,
Yeah.
especially for like it's very much like the creative act. We were talking about that before.
Pushing through the resistance.
Okay.
That's a good book to check out.
The War of Art. Okay, I will.
Yeah.
I want to start reading more, but it's funny. I saw you guys talk about 48 Laws of Power.
Yeah.
And that's the most recent book because I would always read like the first 10 chapters and then I would forget about it.
Took me
Fine.
like 8 months to finish that book, and I read like a book like every 2 weeks.
Finally got halfway, and I still haven't picked it up in so long. But I like how you said it. It's like very manipulative. It's a fucking grind to go through it. You know what I mean? So I haven't really read many books recently, and I would like to get back to that because that does help. Reading.
Yeah, I like you mentioned also the Creative Act. That's the Rick Rubin one, right? That's the name of the Rick Rubin one.
Yeah.
That like I've noticed the way that like the style in which people write makes a big difference for me because it can be very intimidating if like you want to sit down and read a chapter and the chapter is 25, 35 pages. Sometimes you can do it, but like exactly. But sometimes it's just like you want to read something that's like 3 pages long and then get to work.
Yeah.
You know, you don't want like some days you have those days where you're like ingesting knowledge, and then other days you
just need a spark.
Yeah, you just need like a thing that's just like, and sometimes like I'll pull that book up and just like go to a random page, and it's just, and like sometimes it has nothing to do with what you're thinking, and you're like, oh, I should take this in mind, and then other times it's right on point. It's like stop judging yourself, sit down, stop resisting, and do the fucking work.
Yeah, no, I love how he wrote that book. Like it's quick. Some are longer chapters, but most of them are like pretty quick, and it's like you breeze through that, and I love what he's saying. And I like how he opens the book. It's like, take what you want. Like, it's not, you know, words not bond. Like, take what you need and blah, blah, blah. But yeah, he's definitely inspirational. I love watching like his interviews and stuff. But back to, writing, like I would always love running. I love seeing you run and, you know, working out, like, that's huge for me. Like, you gotta go to the gym. Like, you gotta keep your body right, mind, body, and soul. You know. And then music. Like, if I didn't have music, like, I don't know what I would be doing. Like, not creating. I wouldn't be creating anything. I would just be consuming probably if I didn't have music. Because I like to draw like art that way. But like, music is how
that's your creative act.
That's how I get through it. But yeah, journaling has been probably the biggest help, because you got to get all the thoughts out of your head and onto something. You know?
That's one of the biggest things that I picked up. Like, I was having trouble sleeping for a while, and I listened to this podcast who was like this guy who's a sleep expert, and one of the things he talked about was like 2 to 3 hours before bed, write down like what's going through your head, get your thoughts. I kind of just do like a dump of your thoughts.
Exactly.
And there's other things that I've done to help, but like, I think that that's the biggest thing, because it's not just it's not like just a dump of your thoughts, but it's also kind of like giving yourself accountability of, like, a lot of times I would struggle with sleeping because I was not able, I was like, I have to do this, I have to do that, and it's just like, a couple hours ago, you laid all that out. Tomorrow, you're going to do it.
Yeah.
Trust yourself that you're going to be able to do it.
Yeah.
But I think that we've gotten so digital these days, but it's so powerful to write stuff like with your hand. And like, trust me, like, typing is very convenient. But I think that there's so much power in writing stuff actually down.
Yeah.
Because it's like, I don't know. The best way that I feel like this is that it's straight to God, or it's straight to you, or whatever it is. I heard somebody say that, but it just doesn't hit the same way. Like, I know I've listened to interviews of Quentin Tarantino, and he said that like, I write all my scripts, or I used to write all my scripts straight handwritten, and then translate them into typing.
That's awesome.
Because, I think that there's some kind of power and feeling, and there's also something that like, you can type so fast, but when you're writing with your hand, you can like really connect with what you're saying.
Yeah, it's coming through you onto paper. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and I actually used to. It was the ego talking, but like, I wouldn't write anything. I, like, for song wise, it would all be in my head. I'd be like, I'm not writing shit. And now I look back, I'm like, why wouldn't I write this shit out? Because now I got 5 songs stuck in my head, then I can't get more. You know what I mean? Like,
that's the big thing, is clearing that bandwidth, and a lot of people don't realize it. Like, especially when you're trying to make a change and you're trying to get better, like, you have to get out the stuff. You have to unlearn. We talked about this with a guest like a month ago.
Right there, unlearn.
Yeah, you have to unlearn shit. And like, I feel like writing is a very powerful way to just like, this is how I was thinking, and now I'm done thinking like this, because it's out here, it's on the paper, and it's gone.
Yeah,
yeah. One of the things that I did recently, like last week, was just like a fucking rough week for me, and I turned around and I realized, I'm like, you haven't journaled, you haven't been meditating, you haven't been going to the gym or doing yoga as regularly as you thought, and I wrote down like all these negative thoughts that I was having, and then I just went to the next page and wrote like things that you could directly do to solve them, and then you feel way better, and it's like, and you become okay with the fact that like, okay, like this one, maybe I can't solve this till next week, or maybe you write something down and then you realize that's out of my fucking control. I can't solve that. Why am I worried about that? And it gives you this way to just, I think, be like reasonable with yourself.
Yeah, you kind of just see on the paper like what's really consuming your life and your mind. And it's like,
do you handwrite your songs?
Now I do. Yeah, like I'll still, write in my head. But like I've been conscious now to like write down what I got, and like it's funny. I just went back to the beginning of my journal, and we had made the beat for "Keep Going," and 2 days later I had like the chorus, and I was like, new song alert, and I wrote literally like the chorus.
Yeah.
I'm like, I went back to that like
Yeah.
a couple days ago. I was like, that's pretty awesome that I got
That's
that documented.
dope, yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
and that's also a thing, like documenting it and being able to go back. You know what I mean? And
See
saying,
the
like,
growth. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, like being able to like go back and like, I had a bad day back then, be proud of yourself. Or you go back and you had a really good day or something awesome happened and you're able to connect with that. Like, not everything is shit. I shouldn't be so depressed. Like,
Yeah.
you know, like I had, if I had reason on this day to be happy, like, you know, I can find that again.
Yep.
It might not be in this specific moment.
Yeah.
But I can go back to that.
Definitely.
So how does you talked about songwriting there, and like, what's it like for you? Like, where do you think the ideas come from? Does it come from like something that happens to you? Does it come from a melody in your head? Do you feel
God.
the beat?
Comes from God.
Amen, brother.
Hell yeah.
I love all the takes. Like, I've seen Pharrell talk about it. Actually, I watched the Pharrell Rick Rubin episode that they had.
Oh yeah.
It's like you're just taking shit out of a library. Like, you're catching fire. Like, you're catching a fish. Like, you just got to be in that flow state, and it'll just come to you. And you got to take advantage, because one day you might not have it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yep.
And if you wait another day, then you definitely won't have it.
Yeah.
And it's just acting on those, you know, what comes to you, and making sure to create it, because it needs to be created. And if you don't, somebody else will, because it's going to go to somebody else if you don't use it.
Yeah, just like trusting that process of, and I think, like, how do you manage when you're coming up with the idea for a song and you're working through it, but it's, you know, it's not done yet? Like,
Yeah.
how do you work with yourself on that?
Yeah, that's
To be like, this is what it is today, but like, I know it's going to evolve into something.
That's funny you say that, because I'm sitting on a song that's like half done, and I believe in it enough that I do want to finish it. And granted, there's songs that I've started and I will never finish, and it is what it is. But yeah, you just got to believe in the idea. As long as, you know, the original idea is there, then you can work through it. But when it's not speaking to you right away, then I usually just throw it out.
Yeah.
But definitely sticking with being disciplined enough to go back to that song and be like, all right, this is what I kind of want to do. And granted, with songs, it's like, it's only a minute long, the one I have now, and it's like, there's nothing after that. So I can't necessarily picture it 100%. Like, I need to get back with Max and like finish it, but like, there's an abyss at the end. Like, there's nothing there. So and we started this 2 months ago. So like, bringing yourself back to that song, you know, 2 months later, it is tough. But as long as you believe in the idea, like, I think it's something that you can do, you know?
Yeah. Taking like that, like it's like being content with the fact that it's not done. And you're like, I very easily find myself get frustrated if it's like, oh, I can't see a way to make this work, or I can't, like I said, I can't see the ending. I talked to you before we started rolling about storytelling, and it's just like, I can't find the end here. I can't get the good soundbite, or blah blah blah. And sometimes you have to trust your subconscious. That and you have to be like, I don't have the answer to this right now, but maybe if I go take the dog for a walk, or if I get a good night's sleep, or if I go to the gym, or, you know, whatever it is for you. Even sometimes it's just like going and like hanging out with your friends, building an island in his kitchen. You know, like, you know, but like, and he was just like, thank you so much for helping me. Like, I know you didn't want to do this, and it was just like, no, like, I needed to do this because like, I've been banging my head against the wall trying to figure out these edits, and sometimes you have to do something like with your hands, or that just like removes you and allows your subconscious to flow through.
That's where running really helped me. Like, I used to write songs when I was running. That's how I used to write songs. I would run. I would have, you know, the AirPods in. Now I don't even run with the AirPods in.
Yeah,
just
same.
There you go.
Just being God, man.
Yeah, exactly.
That is what I'm out there doing.
And it's funny, actually, the Keep Going song, like, I got it when I was running, and it was really the drums that I had in my head, and it was like a whole different like lyrics, but like the bass of the song was there. So, and it's just, you don't want to get in the way of the music because that's what we're talking about. That's God going through you, you know? So you don't want to get in the way. And I just let the song come together, and it's just funny looking at the song and like when I would run, hearing the beat in my head, and it's like I need to get back to running. But
that's like the best feeling in the world when it's just like you latch onto that idea, or you know you've got something, and it feels like it's all yours, but it doesn't feel like it came like just from you. You know. Yeah.
You've talked a good amount about spirituality. Like, so I know for me, it was like when I found spirituality because I was like, there's got to be something that's going to get me out of this dark place. Like, I had just been doing drugs and like partying too much, and I was like, this can't just be how life is. Like, there has to be something more to this, and there's got to be a reason that like I haven't just like done enough drugs to end this. Like, we're still here, we're still going, so like, what are we doing? And spirituality definitely brought me closer to like, okay, I have a purpose. Like, it might not be clear to me right now, but just be patient and keep putting the right foot forward every day, and he'll like explain it to you along the way. What got you there? Because I feel like that a lot of people don't talk about that. Like, and when you do hear people talking about spirituality, it's because like they've blown up already. But like, I feel like that's a big part of getting to that spot.
100%. You gotta look inward. You gotta, meet yourself, like your actual self, like not the mask that you've had on for 20-something years. And that's where like that. I can't necessarily remember that like moment where like spirituality was like a big part of my life, but like I always believed in signs and stuff like that. And then once I lost the one person, like I would be asking for the signs and they would come like that, and it's like that's not a coincidence. And it's like just keep going like deeper and deeper, and like asking yourself questions, and like, why do I do this? Why did I do that? Like actually ask yourself, and what answers come about. That's what everybody should be doing in my eyes. Like, that's what you need to do. Like, you can't just go around here blind, like just walking around getting fucked up. Like, not good. Like, there's a like I salute you guys for not drinking anymore. Like, I definitely had a problem, and like looking back at it, it's like I was a borderline alcoholic, and I thought it was just like what people did. Like, you just
in that business, especially too.
I grew up in it,
man. So I just thought like I was normal. And now it's like the podcast we were listening to last night was like Michael Chernow's like a very successful person, but he was a heroin addict at 21, and he's just like and he worked in a restaurant, so he's like, I look at a day of like what my life was like 10 years ago, and like, it's absurd to me that person woke up and did that shit throughout the whole day and like thought that was normal.
It's fucking insane to me, dude. That like it was just like like your normal day was
wake up at 4, start drinking at 5, and be doing
blow by. Or if we had to be at work earlier than that, we were probably drinking before that. Yeah, exactly. And then you're compensating with all these different things, and then you're probably fighting with somebody, or you're arguing with your partner, or you're
doing dumb shit.
You're mad. You're mad at your family, or you're fighting with your boss, or whatever it is for no reason. And it's like to compare, like, I think probably all three of us probably still have a bunch of work to do. But if you look at your life back then, and then you look at it now, like, no one could ever say, like, regardless of what happened, like, that you haven't, like, come so far. And you haven't, like, changed. And that, like, I think you had a really good point there, which is that, like, a lot of people seek the answer in, like, books are a great tool. They, or physical activity and stuff, but the answer is always going to be within you. And if you don't, like, I always tell people, like, start with, like, if you're having a hard time meditating, just take 10, 15 minutes to just notice your thoughts. And when you put it like that, people are like, oh. And
I didn't mention that.
It's really the same thing. Like,
I didn't mention that earlier, but I do meditate. Granted, like, I know there's practices like you are supposed to sit up and I get all that, but I literally just lay down and I'm just clear. Like my mind is completely clear and I just sit there and I'm like, if a thought comes up, I try not to engage with it and just try and be like, oh, that's interesting. Or I try and visualize.
Like the clouds metaphor really, or like the stream. Where it's just like, just let the stuff slow by.
I'm just sitting by the river watching it go. I do that. I meditate every day, and it's like 2 separate meditations. The first one, I'm just following my breath the whole time. And then the second one, I'm going to ask myself something internally and just like sit there and let whatever comes up come up. Because like I've got stuff from like when I was a kid that like I've opened up and I've started getting closer with and like identifying where things went wrong. And I know the moment and like what happened to me and what that sparked everything else. But that's hard to sit and like be like, so this really did affect me and I lied about it for so long to myself. And then you look at all the damage that's done along the way and to sit there and but you have to. Yeah. Because if you don't, like, it's one thing to acknowledge it and then just try and putt along. But like, if you don't really sit there and think inward and like look deep into it, like, this is what happened to you. And then later on down the road, I did this. And I know it's correlated, but let's like, what was the reason behind?
Yeah. I definitely had some shit go on when I was a kid, and I definitely feel that when you say that. And I like what you said before, like I did all this bad shit, early on, but I'm still here. Like I never got into hard drugs, thank God, but like the shit I was doing, I shouldn't be alive. And it's like, but I'm here. So
it's like
there's a reason for it.
Yeah, it's like how many times did you drive your car when you fucking shouldn't have?
Yeah.
Or like how many times did you push it a little bit too far and you're laying in bed and your fucking heart is beating out of your chest? Yeah. And like realizing that there's got to be a reason for it, and that like instead of looking at it like I can't find it, it's just like every day is a new opportunity to maybe get a little bit closer to that. Yeah, I really like what you said about it's like, oh, you're supposed to sit up Indian style when you meditate. One of the things that changed the way I looked at anything mindfulness wise was that like, even if the meditation says sit down and put your feet on the floor, you can lay down. Yeah. Or even if the yoga pose is like do this, but you can't handle that, you can do a variation that feels better to you. Exactly. And that like the world's not going to explode if you don't do exactly it the way that like it doesn't have to be. It doesn't have to be like perfect. The pillow doesn't have to be in the right exact spot or whatever it is. And I feel like little steps like that help you deal with that perfectionism that we talked about later, that it's like maybe the drum doesn't sound exactly the way that you want it to, but like maybe that's the way it's supposed to sound. Or maybe that's maybe that's the recording that'll resonate with somebody. Yeah.
Music has definitely helped me with the perfectionist, because you just get to a point and you're like, all right, I'm not going to do anything else with this song. Like I can sit here for hours and be like, oh, this doesn't sound right. But music, it really has helped me where I'm just like, all right, fuck it, this one's done. But now I put a lot more thought into the songs. But it's definitely helped me with that. And it's like, granted, we're definitely, spirituality and like there's some truths that, we've come about, but like nobody knows shit. Like, and don't let anybody sit there and try and tell you everything that they know, because nobody knows nothing. Nobody knows what we're doing here. Nobody. How could you? You know what I mean? Like, just living life. It's tough to find the meaning of life. Nobody has the meaning of life. You know, it's just gotta
embracing like that curiosity and like uncertainty that like in a way that like anxiety and uncertainty are just a part of life. If every single day was just like easy to get through and there were no stakes and like what would be the point? Like very quickly, if we had everything that we wanted like at our fingertips and we could just make it happen like that, then fucking nothing would be worth it. It wouldn't be worth it to make amazing music. It wouldn't be worth it to create stuff because it wouldn't have like a struggle that added to you becoming who you are.
Exactly. Exactly.
So I think one of the reasons that we can all relate is because people go through hard shit and like having things happen to you,
Mm-hmm.
it kind of does put you on the track and the path to where you're supposed to be, and then realizing that stuff, as hard as it was the way it was supposed to happen.
Mm-hmm.
So how have you dealt with those moments in your life?
You know, it never goes away, like that feeling. When I lost, you know, my first friend, it was almost been 5 years now. I definitely think about it less, but it definitely puts you on that. It just makes you vulnerable again, like where I was saying, like you're just sitting there, like bright lights on you and you don't know what's going on. Like I remember seeing a clip of running back D'Angelo Williams. He talks about how he lost his mom, and I like what he said. He said, like, your world stops, but the world's still going around. But like you think the world stops because of what happened, and that's where you know look into yourself, and those dark days that you got nothing, you can't do anything else. You literally just got to sit there and be like, damn, like I can't even talk to this person again, like all that shit, and just thoughts nonstop. And it's tough, but that's where you find the journaling. That's where you find the running. And, oh, I got to get back to the gym. I got to do this, like, or else it's just going to eat at you.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, music, like I said before, music, it saved my life. And I don't know what I would be doing if I didn't have that to go back to, you know, just creating something. And yeah, it never gets easier, but I mean, it does get easier, but it's always there, you know. But did you have anything that you went through, like, closer to now that kind of helped you realize it? Or
I mean, for me, like I said, getting sober was like the eye opener for me. I wouldn't have been able to figure out everything else that's wrong with me, like the shit that I'm working on, like, because I think at one point I knew I was a little bit broken, but then, like, you've talked a good amount about the mask, like the ego. My ego had a whole masquerade, like, going on. Like, I can truthfully say, and like, no, like, I've had life drag me around for quite some time, and I'm just starting to get back to the steering the ship, like getting back on board, like, where no, the decisions that I'm making today are really starting to show in the future. Like, it's not like I'm still trying to make up for like the shit that I did wrong 5-6 years ago. Like, I know now that, like, that had happened, like, that stuff happened, and I'm okay with it, and I've processed it, and like now I'm on a path to be a better person. For me, a lot of the stuff, like, I would never look inward, but like I could see the damage I was doing to everybody else. Like, and the person that I was with at the time, like, God bless her, don't know why she stayed as long as she did, but looking at her every day was like, I have to get sober. I cannot keep doing this to her and to everybody else all the time. Because like, what kind of person does that make me if I know that I'm just ruining everybody else's time, and I'm okay with it, and I'm not going to do anything to change it? I think that was probably the biggest thing for me. And then, like, I've definitely come to terms with it. I like know I like to do psychedelics. Mushrooms is a big thing for me. I feel like it helps me connect to God. It helps me it brings me, like, to a place where I can be my 7-year-old me that has trauma, or I can be like my 25-year-old me that, like, I can just see it all in spectrum when I'm there, and to have that conversation with God, and he's just like, this happened and it is what it is, now let it go. Like, while I'm having that experience, I always cry when I do mushrooms. That's how I know when my trip is over, when I'm crying, because I'm like, okay, I am expressing right now the emotions that were all built up. And I think when I moved home, it was the first time that I was like, I'm not in this relationship anymore. I'm no longer doing harm to this person. And I spent the last 1.5 years trying to prove to them that, like, I am making a change. Like, we are going to get better from this. So, like, I got home and I had my experience with mushrooms and I heard what I needed to hear, man. I just like, God was like, it's okay. This shit happened. Like, I was a liar, a cheater, a stealer. I like wasn't a good person. I wasn't faithful. And all of that is put to rest and I'm okay with it. That's part of me and it's always going to be part of me. I can't run away from it, but I know that that's not how I'm judged anymore.
Yeah.
Like,
I like that.
Yeah.
I love that, actually.
Yeah.
I don't know if I could ever do psychedelic drugs just because I feel like I'm but I've thought about it and I think it would help.
Baby
What was
steps.
like your first experience with mushrooms? Like it was by yourself or like you have to do it with somebody?
so, I mean, me and you kind of both have,
I have an interesting, that ties into that first question you asked, but go ahead, yeah.
I started, the first time I did mushrooms, I was like 16.
Uh-huh.
But like, I feel like I understand plant medicine now. Mushrooms are aliens that have been here long before us and they'll be here long after us. Mycelium is fucking everywhere. It's all connected. The roots of mushrooms spread for forever. And like I believe that God is in nature. And that's when I feel called. When I'm running, I know that I'm outside running with God. And like when I do mushrooms, I know that it's around. I just feel it. Like you can think otherwise, but for me, in my perspective, in my reality, that's how I feel. So like I had always had, as a kid and growing up, just like the party time with mushrooms. And because of that, I had really bad trips. Like they would always start off sunshine and rainbows, but I always got to this place now because I know I have all this trauma and shit. And then I was just blocked and I was having a really bad time because I was only using it to get fucked up. Now when I do mushrooms, like I'm super intentional. Like I'll journal about what I expect from it. Like I make sure that like I go into it in a mature way. Like I'm spending this time today trying to figure out this about myself. And for me, I mostly do them alone. Especially when I'm doing a dosage that I know I'm going to have that experience. Like I'll fuck around and do a microdose every now and then and go for a run because I'm just like, this is great to be outside in nature and I'm having a good time and I love this. But like just recently me and him did mushrooms together and that was the first time that I had ever taken like a significant dosage and been like comfortable being around somebody. But I think it's because I took those couple times where I did it by myself and I really had those deep internal trips so I could like, I'll never forget the first time I did mushrooms. I had probably only stopped drinking for like a month and like I wasn't doing coke anymore. I was still smoking cigarettes and I was still smoking weed. But like I had only been walking, hadn't even started running yet. But I remember at the end of my trip just laying in the yard and the voice in my head was like, I like what you're doing here. I like the way it looks in here.
Wow.
Like you're getting there. And now every time that I do mushrooms, like when I don't fuck around and do it all the time. It's like I'll microdose here or there, like maybe once or twice a month. But like if I'm going to go for it, like that has to be planned out.
I like what you said about nature. I'm definitely big on that too. Like touching grass, like
trees, man.
Oh yeah, I just hugged my first tree. I got to do it more. But
you look like you've been hugging trees for years, dude.
I love climbing trees. Though. And that's barefoot and feeling.
Grounding is so big.
Grounding, absolutely. Birds are big for me. Like
I love watching birds. I see hawks all the time, and hawks are a sign that you're aligned with your path. I looked that up when I like first got into this because crows are supposed to be like a sign of ego death.
Oh,
and,
okay.
Like, I had learned about that, and I was like, I kept seeing fucking hawks, and now there's like a family of hawks that lives in my neighborhood that I see every morning when I walk the dog. Like I start the day off, and I'm like, okay, what's up, guys?
Dude, that's crazy. You just said that though, because I was on the walkway yesterday. I started fasting, over 24 hours now, but it's my first time doing it. But I went for a walk, and I see a fucking bald eagle at the end of it. I'm like, oh my, like. I'm always like,
it's
like,
crazy
that's a sign.
when you stop and like you're present. It's so like life is fucking amazing if you're present. And like it's not always going to be amazing when you're present, but 9 times out of 10, especially when you're in nature, when you're just doing something for no reason, just because you felt called to go outside and go for that walk, like if you just look around and you're there, like, the shit you see is crazy, dude.
Yeah.
And then on the way back, there was like 50 crows going by me. I'm like, I've never seen so many fucking crows
That's
go
wild,
by.
dude.
Yeah.
You let go of some stuff.
Yeah.
I saw a vulture the other day, bro. That shit was fucking...
Dude, they're huge.
Yo,
I saw one the other day,
it was
too.
crazy, yeah.
Fucking huge.
So you had asked, like, was there, like, a specific moment? And so it's about 2.5 years ago, my first dog was actually the dog that Steve and I got together, and he was like my best friend. He was, you know, in it's very interesting when I look at it now because he was there when, you know, we were both being pieces of shit to each other, to other people, to whoever. And he passed away. So like 6 years old.
Oh wow.
Yeah, and he got heat stroke on a walk on a summer day.
Oh no way.
And for God knows how long, I beat myself up about it. Like it was all my fault. I could have done more. And it was like, because, you know, you talk about losing somebody. I've had the privilege still up kind of to this point that, like the people like who are really close to me, I've never like lost anybody like that until I lost him. And it was like this just weight on my shoulders that like I couldn't forgive myself for.
Yeah.
And he was like the sweetest fucking most genuine animal like I've ever had. No offense. As she lays in my lap. And I just had this weight on me about like forgiving myself.
Yeah.
And I just like I really had like, and it was like, it was that moment, but it was a slow process of realizing that nobody wants you, especially the people who you care about, like whether it's, you know, this Noah who I lost or anybody else in your life wants you to like dwell on it and give yourself space to like forgive yourself. And it's funny that he brought up mushrooms too, because probably, I don't know exactly, but it was months, maybe even close to a year later, I did a mushroom trip by myself and went into it with these, you know, I probably didn't realize it at the point, but I was like so blocked up about it and had like shoved that down and like maybe hadn't even like really dealt with it. And I remember so clearly being on my living room floor and like sometimes like, you know, when you're tripping out, like you don't see what's in front of you. You see what your mind is telling you or the mushroom wants you to see. And I just saw him and he was telling me that like, it's okay. You can forgive yourself.
That's fucking awesome.
And what's crazy about it is that I feel like that has like carried over so much, and I still struggle with forgiving myself about little fucking bullshit to this day. But it's carried over in this way that is like, it's okay to move past it, and that like not everything is your fault, and that like I still think that to this point, like basically I think that the lesson that I got out of it really though was that like you're not untouchable. Like anything could happen at any moment. You know, like up till that point he was a pretty healthy dog and everybody kind of expects that you're going to get at least like 10, 12 years out of your animals, regardless of anything. And it just gave me this idea that like this could happen to you tomorrow, you know, no matter how, you know what I mean? It's just like, that's, and it was just like this thing that you couldn't go back. And I just had to have this like acceptance with the universe of fuck, man, I can't get that moment back. And it's this feeling, it was a feeling of this innocent idea of doing something nice for your dog, to go take him on a walk on a nice day that turned into such a tragic fucking thing. And that putting that weight on your shoulders isn't going to help you be any better. You know?
I definitely had a lot of guilt.
That's the word. Guilt's a big one.
It is. And I mean,
wishing
I still
you could do
struggle.
more.
Absolutely.
Or just like having that grip that like, God, I wish I why couldn't I just go back, like, why couldn't I have been like so fucking hungover that day that I didn't want to leave the house?
Yeah.
You know, or whatever it is, and
Yeah.
going back and just like wrestling with that idea that I cannot change this,
Yeah.
and going for months, going back and forth with myself that like it's not going to come back.
Yeah.
He's not like it's not going to change.
Yeah.
And even for me, it felt silly because when you talk to people who have lost like close people to them, you feel silly talking about a dog sometimes.
Nah.
But then this is what I was struggling with was, but then you realize that it's just like, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
It's the connection. It's what came from it. And it's just like, he wouldn't want me to sit here and be so upset with myself or to beat myself up about this.
Yeah.
He'd be like, I know where your heart was, because like I said, you something happens and then you write this whole narrative about how, like you went out there and you were trying to hurt him and like you beat yourself up in a million different ways, and it's tough, but it also is like you said, it's kind of like sitting down and dealing with that and giving yourself the space to be like, this isn't all my fault. This is just what God's plan was. He was, he was here for 6 years. I could have had him for 1.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very true. Have you had any other experiences with mushrooms after that? Or
that's probably like the most intense one that I've ever had. When me and you did them, however a couple months ago that was, like, I still like see that as, because prior to that and still moving forward from that, like, I feel like from that moment on, you and I have been able to share things that, like, we never ever, like, there's things that me and him talk about that I never ever thought would hear the light of day.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, and like, it's kind of like not expecting it. Like, sometimes you have like these crazy visceral experiences, and then other times you just have like these ones that are like really like meaningful, where you don't see anything crazy.
You have like a really nice talk.
Yeah, exactly. And like I said, I think I still think about that, because it's just like, and then that gives you the space when you're not tripping out or you're just kind of like going through life to just be like, I know I can call that person.
Yeah.
And it's branched out into ways with my parents and my family and other friends that I have, that is like, nothing bad is going to come from being honest. And if you want to share something, it's okay.
I like that.
Yeah.
My friend told me how he had like a vision that he killed himself in front of his whole family when he did mushrooms. Ever since then, I'm just like, I'm a very anxious person, so I just don't want to have that trip. But it's all about going into it with intention.
It's a mindset, I think. Something like that is like, there's something rooted there, like, because I used to have, like, when I would trip balls, I'd be like, me and him, I'll never forget. We were literally just sitting in the apartment one time, and we had done mushrooms, and he was playing Crash Bandicoot. You know when you get like the mask on after you get like the 3 apples? Yo, that scared me to the point of no return for like the rest of the day. And like, I'm telling you, the trip had just started. Like, that's when I first knew. I was like, oh man, I saw that mask and it just made me think of the darkest things. And I was like, fuck. But I wasn't doing anything to better myself. I wasn't healthy. I was just like going about life. I was a non-playable character at that time, to be honest. Like, just walking through life day to day. Like,
I love how you said that before. Like, life was dragging me around. Like, I definitely feel that. But what were you saying?
It's just like, you just have those moments, and like I think it's just part of this journey of like maturing and getting to know yourself and doing that inward work, like you were talking about. Like, once you start doing that work, I think things like psychedelics and probably just mushrooms, maybe like ayahuasca, like some of like plant medicine, I think when you are comfortable with yourself and you know you're doing it for the work and you know how to breathe, it's a big thing that a lot of people don't realize. Is if you like, I feel like, do you do breath work ever?
I don't, and do you just open my eyes to it? Like,
I would 100%.
You can have a psychedelic experience on
just breathing properly. Most people don't even know how to breathe. Like, when they talk about mouth breathers, that's like a good portion of the population, and like just taking. That's so a big thing from Wim Hof that I learned. He's another big one. Like I take a cold shower every morning for 3 minutes, and like I'll do the cold plunge whenever I can. But like cold exposure and then breathing correctly can like just be such a breakthrough on its own. Like definitely look into breathwork techniques, like
because it's like it's definitely like a small. I think it's a great introduction to that of like just getting that little bit of that like. Because I would say in a way like it feels a little psychedelic.
In
but
most cultures too. Sorry.
No. But most people think that it's like, yeah, I'm gonna see, like, and sometimes that happens. But I think people create this like expectation that it's either gonna be something like that. Like you've talked about how like you were scared of like going on where you felt out of control and that you would like say something that you never wanted to say
like
to
letting
anybody.
go of like something that I had
and then coming
away.
coming back to life and being like what the fuck, like but like the intent, I think, and I think that intent with mushrooms has carried over intent into anything. Like it's the part of the intent of this podcast is that like if our heart is in the right place and we're putting intention to the right thing, like what could come wrong from it? Just like if you're taking psychedelics, if your intent is to get fucked up, you're probably going to get fucked up, but not in the way that you think. But if you're going into it with like, I'm going to learn something about myself, maybe you're seeking an answer. Like sometimes you think it's going one way and you just have to let it take you the other way. And that's hard to explain without doing it, because we grip so tightly to reality and we want to be in control even of things that we have no control over.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Where would I start, you think?
So Wim Hof actually has a free app, or you can just go on YouTube and type in like Wim Hof breathing, and like it'll come up. I don't want to sit here and try and explain it because I'm not a professional, and there are people that like can go more in depth to it. But like the breathing in a lot of cultures, especially in like what we consider like a third world country, like tribes people will teach breathing to children, like as like part of school, like growing up. Because like not only does it help you regulate your body and your nervous system, but like there's different things you can like, there's breathing techniques for like if you want to go do something athletic. Like a lot of people when they're running get gassed out because you don't know how to breathe right. It's about breathing intentionally, and like especially with psychedelics, nothing will open up the experience like knowing how to properly breathe, especially when you get that nervousness, like you're about to have a bad trip. Just taking the time to like, I'm gonna breathe deeply, like just take a really deep breath and then I'm gonna exhale as long as I can. Or doing box breathing, where you're breathing for 4 seconds and then holding it for 4 seconds, exhaling for 4 seconds and holding again before you take another breath. Like just those basic things like really can help. I know for me 100% it helps me regulate my nervous system. I could be nervous as fuck. I'll look at my whoop sometimes and it'll be like, your heart rate's like, especially since I stopped smoking other than in the morning, like if I do smoke in the afternoon, like my whoop's picking up an activity because my heart rate is spiked and it's not used to that anymore. And I know that I can drop my heart rate from like 130 to like 75 if I just take 2 minutes and just do some breath work. That's awesome. Just because you're getting in, it gets you out of your head. I think that's another thing about meditation that I love, and with the physical activity, you can get out of your head and into your body. And I feel like not enough people, a lot of people walk around up here all day and they're not here.
I heard that the other day on a podcast that like there's research that your body is sending way more everybody thinks that like your brain controls everything. Your body is sending way more messages to your brain than your brain is sending to your body.
I like that.
And like I feel like I spent the first 27 28 years of my life all up here. All up here. Oh my God. And it's like and then you wonder like why that voice is so loud. And then like why you can't get past it, because you've like that.
This is how you've been living.
Exactly. And you've been, I mean, for lack of a better word, you've been poisoning yourself with whether it's alcohol or drugs, or it's negative thoughts or negative experiences or negative people.
Stretching has really helped me too. I didn't mention that. I know you said yoga. I would definitely like to get into yoga.
Man. But yoga changed my life, man. Absolutely.
Because all my trauma is right in my hip, right in my entire left side really is. Like,
bro, I got sciatica on my left side too.
That's just all trauma and shit over the years. You know,
you hold so much tension in your hips, more so than anywhere else in your body, and just taking the minute to like 5 minutes every day to do hip openers just helps release that energy. And like whenever you feel pain in your body, I am 100%, unless like you really tore your meniscus, like all the pain that you feel in your body is emotion that you haven't let out. Something came up, you got sparked, and you're like, I can't deal with this right now, and you push it down. And it's just sitting there waiting to be released.
We'll show you a few poses after. For me, yoga didn't start with like going to a class. Yoga started with me in my living room or in my bedroom with the door closed. But like I did yoga for 3 or 4 years before that, only by myself, and I was so scared to do like a downward facing dog in front of any other people or whatever. But even before that, it started with, oh, this stretch will help your lower back. This will do that, you know? And it all starts with like baby steps. But like I was in a class a few days ago where the teacher was just like, I think she called your hips like the gateways to your something. That was like, we hold so much in there. And oh my God, man. And, you're always working against it. But I think so quickly we go to every problem gets solved up here. And it's like very far from the truth. Like breathing, the stretching, like I mean you probably already know a little bit about breathwork if you're stretching. So maybe without even realizing it.
And the cold exposure, like now with my hair, in the morning I would always just turn it cold for like a minute. But now I don't get my hair wet, so like I try and fit it in whenever I can, the cold exposure. But I just remember like being in Miami and going in the cold water because it was like winter, and you catch yourself, breathing, and that's how you come back into your body. But the cold exposure, I would like a cold plunge.
There's a place in Beacon. Shout out to Kelta. Kelta is right down the road, and they have a sauna. They have a cold plunge. They have a meditation bed, which is super cool, and they have float tanks.
Float tanks,
like the sensory deprivation tanks.
I don't think I've ever seen that before. What is that?
Yeah, Stranger Things. The thing she lays in.
Yeah,
they have one of those, bro. Like it's an actual tank, and it's just like it's the water where you just sit there. They cover the top, like you're just in a pod, just floating.
No shit.
Yeah.
Have you done it a lot?
I haven't done that, but I've done I've
always
the
wanted
cold
to do
plunges
that.
in the sauna.
Yeah.
I haven't done the meditation bed yet either, but I definitely want to do that.
Sauna is so big too, especially like. Sometimes I like, even if I'm not feeling great in like working out, like sometimes I'll just drive to the gym to go in the sauna. I actually think that like I got a new tattoo like now it's like 2 months ago, but that some part of like struggling mentally had to do with the fact that like I couldn't go in there because it was still healing.
Okay.
And I had come to like make that such a part of my routine. And like you go in there and you see people like on their phones all the time and blah blah blah, and I'm like, I look forward to this time where I'm just like, get it all away from me, so I can like feel my body. So I can just like feel the shit. Like for so long, I feel like I wasn't like grateful. For like the bag of skin that I was in, or however you want to describe it, you know?
And when we were talking about writing, like I had the thought, like I do have the thought every now and then, like maybe one day I'm not going to be able to write. Like I try and be grateful in that sense, like running. There might be a day I can't run anymore, and it's like you got to really enjoy it and be like, wow, this does help me a lot. So and bask in it, you know?
Yeah, man. This has been a great conversation.
It's
crazy to see how far you've come, man.
You too. JP, I met you at the Yankee game, and
bro,
it's a whole different life.
And then you realize that like sometimes like these, like back then we could have easily had you were making music, like we probably would have connected totally about like just the creative process. But like you look back and you're like, we're too busy like thinking that was shallow, or that like people didn't want to talk about that, or that's not how people connect. They connect because like you're sitting down having a drink with them, and that's why like moments like these are so important. Because it feels very, I say it all the time, it feels very full circle. Even if it's like somebody who you weren't close with originally,
To be honest, I wasn't doing music when I met you.
No? Oh, shit.
I've been doing it for 3 years now. A little over 3 years. But were you doing like any videography stuff?
A little bit. I was back then it was probably when I was getting out of it.
Okay.
Yeah.
No shit.
Who thought we'd be here, man?
Who thought?
Exactly. Exactly.
So we don't want to keep you too long, but we do ask a question to everybody that's on the podcast. And I think, especially being a musician, it'll be cool to see your answers. And I think this question always just gives whoever's listening or watching insight on the person, because you hear their answers and you're like, huh. Mm-hmm. So in Think and Grow Rich, because we're big readers, there is a section of that book. Another one, definitely pick it up. It's about like the power of the mind. Mm-hmm. But there's a section in there where he's discussing one of the people he's researching has a council of figurative people that you'll look to for inspiration when you're going through a tough time, like to ask a question, to ask for help. Mm-hmm. Can be real, can be made up, can be somebody you inspire to. You want to just give us like 5 people that would be on your council?
5 people. My babe, Rosabrina, definitely be one. If it wasn't for music, she definitely saved my life. I don't know where I would be without her. I'd probably be dead or in jail. My sister, she is amazing. And I look back to when we were younger and me just being an older brother, being an asshole. And it's like, I could have just loved this person the whole time, and it would, you know what I mean? Like, just being that older brother, like picking on her, like, you know what I mean? Did not have to do that. Like, and now we have, you know, the best relationship, really. Like, I would like to talk to her more, and I should reach out more. I'm not the greatest with that, but
it's a process.
Yeah. Yes, it is. Mm-hmm. Yes.
Yeah. Keep in mind that these people don't have to be people you know.
Yeah.
These can be anybody.
Yeah.
Okay.
Jeez. Now that you say that, though, it is.
Yeah. Well, oftentimes people go right to that.
He was rolling.
Yeah.
I guess I would say Max, because it's just kind of crazy the ride that we've been on. Like, his birthday is a day before mine. Like, we've always been friends in high school, and it's just how you want to talk about full circle. Like, now we're making songs together, and it's like, really, who thought we'd be there? To be honest, like, I told you the story how we used to live together. We both had no music goals per se. We just loved it, and then now we're making music. And
that's why it's funny for me and him to like have a podcast now, because like we lived together for what, 3 years,
and then we weren't friends for like 3 more.
Yeah,
we didn't talk at all.
3 years. Wow.
Yeah. And like to think that like our rooms were right next to each other, and like we, you know, like we could have been. We did do some stuff together, but like we could have been creating what we do now, but that kind of time was necessary for us to be
for
here.
Sure.
Yeah,
that's amazing that you guys reconnected after those years, and you guys are doing this. It's awesome.
Thank you, man.
I guess I would say my parents, just because they've, you know, we disagree on a lot of things, but they are still my parents, and you know, their opinion on certain things might not like to hear it, but it does, you know, resonate with me. So I would like to have that, you know, in my council, you know, somebody that challenges me, whether I think they're right or wrong, like, you know what I mean?
Yeah, man, like when you growing up and realizing like how important your parents are.
Yeah.
And
I remember my mom saying one thing, because she was talking about her mom, and she was like, yeah, you only get one mom. And ever since she said that, I'm like, damn, she really, like,
yeah,
you only get one. That's 4.
You can go beyond 5 too if you feel like. You can go as many people as you want, really.
Yeah. And then I would say maybe my biggest inspiration, Michael Jackson, just his perspective, and he was famous for so long, and it's like, just to be able to have a conversation with him, I guess, just like how he got through all that. Like, imagine being in the public eye since you were like 6 years old, and
unreal.
And I know he gets a bad rap for a lot of things when it comes to kids, right? And then nobody knows really the answer, but like some videos that I see, I think he just loved kids, like just because they're kids. And when
he was famous as a kid,
exactly.
Like,
so
exactly.
It's like you never really
he sees the innocence in it, you know. It's like it's a hard topic, but
but like when my little cousin when her mom passed away and my parents took her in. Like, I live below my parents. It's my own apartment, but I mean, they rent too. But we were there. Like, I had to move home for a little bit, and she came, and just talking with her and being around her and playing, and like, that really, actually, she'll be a part of my council.
There you go.
Mercedes. Yeah, just seeing that innocence and like anything's possible in her eyes, it's like, it's awesome to see. And I want her to get into music too.
Nice.
Or anything creative, you know?
Yeah.
Because you know how kids are with their iPads nowadays. And
Yeah, of course.
you got to steer them in the right direction. But yeah, I think that would be a good counsel right there.
Yeah.
That's a good one.
That's
Good
a
answers.
good one, man.
Good
Yeah,
answers.
man. Obviously, before we go, speak directly into the camera there. You can promote your music. Where can everybody find your stuff? And also, like, any message that you want to pass on to people out there.
Brandon Purdy signing out. Go listen to Keep Going, because that's my message with everything.
Yeah.
You're only in the game if you don't quit. And as long as you're in the game, you're winning. So keep going.
Yeah. Well said.
man.
Well said.
Yeah.
All right.
And we'll have everything linked, your YouTube, TikTok,
Yeah.
Instagram.
Yeah.
We'll have all that on the profile for the song.
Yeah.
Just thank you again, man. This was really cool.
This was awesome.
This was a different experience than like I could have imagined. You
Yeah,
know? Like,
I know.
We never know how these things are gonna go, but like they always
Yeah.
end up working out
Yeah.
exactly the way they're supposed to.
Yeah, we really appreciate your time, man. Thank you so much for doing this.
Yeah, absolutely.
And
We thought we'd be here.
Who
Yeah.
thought?
all right.
All right.
Awesome. That was really fun, guys.